Did you know that Google personalizes many searches by city, and Also Asked is the only tool to access live People Also Ask data at city level? Try for free at alsoasked.com.
Tired of SEO guesswork? Quadra's AI agent goes deeper to uncover high-impact optimizations and completes hours of SEO in minutes. Get started now.
I was going to say that SEO with Fat Joe is as peaceful as this, but then the birds are all having fights.
Hello, Brighton. Right, let's get straight into it. That's a more up-to-date picture of me. Hey everyone, I'm Akash, and as an SEO, I'm asking a fairly provocative question. Have SEOs like myself ruined the internet? It sounds a little bit clickbaity, I know. And I guess speaking of clickbait, I think that's one of the things that users complain about a lot. One of those things that people think might be ruining the internet, along with, fluff and AI junk. And I want to sort of look at the question of, as SEOs, are we part of the problem or are we the solution? And I think just in this chat, I want to honestly reflect on and explore some ways we can regain that user trust. So I've split this out into 4 main sort of sections. We've got SEO evolution and user distrust in general. Then we've got the impact of AI on web quality, or big bad AI coming to wreck the web. We've also got sort of what that might mean for your strategy. And then finally, we're going to be answering that question that I've posed initially on SEO ruining the internet. And by the end, you should hopefully see some form of a solution focused on user-first SEO within your context. So let's jump into the timeline. You'll see that SEO has evolved hugely since the 90s. Back in 1998 when it launched, we had things like keyword stuffing, link spam dominating all the way through sort of Florida, Jagger, Panda, etc. Every single time the SEO went too far, Google cracked down with updates like, again, Florida, Panda, and Penguin to prioritize users over manipulation. And I really miss the old update names compared to what we have now. And this evolution is really, it's still continued, even with the trashier names, I guess, into recent years as new forms of bad SEO have emerged. So, on the previous slide, you saw sort of Google's Medic update, and that targeted sites with bad and non-trustworthy YMYL, or your money, your life content, stuff that lacked trustworthiness or expertise. And it was a big hint that trust and authority were becoming massively critical when it comes to your ranking factors. And continued updates from this point, looking at your spam updates, core updates, etc. They emphasize genuine user value over the optimization tricks and gaming the algorithm. So the takeaway for me was whenever SEO prioritizes algorithms over audiences, Google comes along and eventually penalizes that. Anyone remember this article? It definitely did the rounds on sort of SEO LinkedIn. We also tend not to pay attention to some of the noise on r/SEO in that image beneath it. But I think posts like this are almost creating a bit of an echo chamber loop of doom and gloom about what SEO can be or what SEO is to non-SEOs, people who aren't in the industry but have heard about this big bad SEO thing, right? And tension grows with users when SEOs are chasing rankings at the expense of a user's experience. So users now can quite quickly identify SEO-driven fluff. Anyone who's tried to find a recipe and has had to scroll through 12 walls of text to actually get to the recipe will understand what I'm talking about. And that trust tends to erode when users are feeling that the content is being optimized for algorithms and not for their actual needs as a user. And I think as SEOs and wider as content creators, this is something that we all really need to, and I think we should want to, pay attention to. If we don't deliver real value to our users, they're going to seek their information elsewhere. And to be honest, that's exactly what's been happening over the past few years, which kind of brings us on to user behavior. Now remember, every single search query by a human, is a real human with real needs. Optimizing content purely for your algorithms is going to miss this fundamental truth that somebody's trying to find something out. And great SEO directly addresses actual user questions, problems, and desires. It places people and not rankings at the center of the strategy. So empathy and understanding human intent is going to create genuinely useful content, and it improves user satisfaction, it improves trust, and it will improve your performance too. And then to add fuel to this fire, obviously, AI is here. It's enabling large-scale automated content creation. It's flooding search results with low-quality content that adds very little value. You know, these pages often lack expertise. They lack originality. It damages search quality as a whole. And just to list stuff off, AI is generating things like affiliate blogs with rehashed product reviews, fake Amazon reviews, which are manipulating the ratings, deepfake videos that are misrepresenting celebrities or public figures, summarizing jokes or forum posts as factual advice in the SERPs, automated content farms, churning out generic article after generic article, and news aggregators doing very similar stuff, regurgitating AI-written summaries. On top of that, false health advice ranking really highly in the SERPs, how-to guides with completely unreliable information, citations linking to non-existent sources, and even AI-generated political disinformation and propaganda. I could keep going on with a list like this of how AI is making the web a worse place to be. And that leads to the big bad user backlash. You know, what happens when users are inundated with all of this? They push back, and users in 2024 and users in 2025 have increasingly been bypassing traditional search, explicitly seeking authentic content on platforms like Reddit or TikTok or Instagram. You know, searchers adding Reddit started to surge, you know, at the end of your queries. It's because users crave genuine human responses, and it kind of shows their fatigue as users with traditional SEO results in traditional search engines. Let's put some numbers to the backlash. So 35% of chatbot users bypass search engines entirely. So over a third of those users are using chatbots to answer their questions instead of traditional search engines, which is it's kind of scary if you're an SEO. And looking at the age split, we're seeing 45% of Gen Z prefer social platforms over search engines. And the split for millennials there is almost 50-50. So younger audiences are shifting away from Google towards TikTok and AI chatbots, which you'll have heard all day and all day yesterday. And it's due to dissatisfaction with the traditional results that they're seeing in search quality. And we're seeing this trend changing linearly with age, i.e. the older you are, the more likely you're going to be using Google over a chatbot or social media to find the answer to your query. So it shows that Google's dominance is no longer a given once other platforms or new habits are starting to form. And users are tired. Looking at a study with about 2,000 respondents in the US, 76% of those users thought search results seemed sponsored or promoted. 42% thought that search engines were becoming less useful at their job, as in answering their queries. 55% prefer getting their information from specific communities, such as Reddit over search engines. 52% are using AI chatbots or social media over search engines, and 66% of users overall think that the quality of information on search is worsening. This is another cursed slide, I apologize. But not to say that, you know, social media is innocent. On the contrary, internet fatigue driven by endless clickbait, repetitive content, intrusive ads, overwhelming generated, you know, AI content, and brain rot, as seen there, is making users really cynical. You know, they're tired of sifting through the noise to actually find genuine, trustworthy content, no matter where they are. So it's not all on search, it's not all on search engines, but the internet as a whole, I think, is feeling a lot less coherent in general. And addressing this fatigue means creating more streamlined, authentic, and genuinely helpful experiences, whether that's on social or whether that's on search. Just as an aside, you know, I kind of like looking at this as like a love triangle where users demand relevant answers, SEOs want visibility, Google needs happy users, SEOs want visibility, Google needs happy users, and then obviously we get big bad AI coming in and complicating every single one of these interactions. And I think aligning your SEO strategies with genuine user interest is probably going to resolve this complexity that we're seeing right now. Google's continually reacting to what SEOs are doing just to keep their users happy, and we're seeing this happen at a more increased rate. And while AI was promised to fix things, obviously, it can definitely still feel like a bit of an antagonist at the moment. Then there's AI content sort of surfacing in your search results, and also AI overviews. The latter means fewer clicks as answers start to appear directly to your users. SEOs now might want to structure content clearly and factually just to be cited within AI-generated answers, but that also helps your user too. So it will balance that visibility with genuine usefulness to a user. And I think we've all seen the AI overview fails that were doing the rounds as it kind of launched, from eating rocks to drinking urine or running with scissors as a form of cardio. And while it's better now, I think AI answers can still hallucinate or badly collate information from different sources, especially when you're trying to be hyper-specific. And to me, this is underscoring a major issue. If AI content is low quality or if it's incorrect, it can mislead users, and it can massively damage trust that users have within search engines, even if some of that underlying content is sound. Just as another aside, it is getting a little bit better. We've got retrieval augmented generation, RAG or RAG. I know it's like the GIF argument that John talked about in October, but it enables AI to pull relevant factual content from more trusted sources. So we've seen it with the AIOs. They seem to be a lot better now, but even with that improvement, I think as SEOs, we can learn from that by optimizing our content, again, by structuring it clearly, more factually, and it helps with retrieval from AI, but it just helps a user understand what that content is quite quickly. Give them the meat, and then you can go into your paragraphs or whatever else you need to go into. But it ensures your high-quality content is still featured in those AI-generated responses, and that helps reinforce user trust and visibility because you're giving the user what they're asking for. This is probably the last cursed slide, I think. But coming back to AI in search, the concept of search engines becoming answer engines, you'll have heard a lot about it today. It's not brand new, and we've seen it with things like featured snippets in Google, knowledge panels, and even voice assistant answers. But AI is really accelerating this when it does it correctly. When users type a question, they increasingly expect the answer right there, rather than just a list of websites that they have to go through and find the answer for themselves. So for example, if I searched, how many calories are in an apple? Google might just tell me the number at the top, or if I ask my phone via voice search, it'll tell me an answer. It'll speak it from a featured snippet, for example. And users love that convenience. I'm a user, and I think it's nicer just to get the answer immediately, right? However, that does mean fewer clicks to our websites. The user got what they needed immediately, which might not be great for you as an SEO. Back to voice search, which I just mentioned sort of briefly. For me, and for probably many of us, I think it's a bit more cumbersome than just using your thumbs and getting a search done off your phone. But neural language processing and better software and hardware in people's pockets, i.e. better phones coming out, it's going to mean an uptick in the usage of voice search, especially with AI chatbot voice modes getting better, Alexa trying to get AI sort of integrated within it. And voice search prioritizes single, concise answers. So we'll see people optimize their content for conversational and more natural queries. Clear summaries at the top again, combined with deeper details lower down, is going to help ensure inclusion in those voice results and featured snippets. It's almost doing the work of these AI aggregators for them, which means they're likely to pick that stuff up. Remember earlier as well, when it comes to communities and user-generated content, 55% of people prefer their info from specific communities like Reddit or Discord over search. And this is because people trust other people, especially those with real lived-in experiences or similar perspectives. And for me, as a gamer, if I need to know a hyper-specific answer on how to find a collectible on a specific level under very rare circumstances on the highest difficulty mode after I've banged my head against the wall about 20 times, then chances are that there's some dude on Reddit who's already done it and already posted about it, whereas a Google AIO is not going to give me the correct answer for that. So Google's been promoting user-generated content with good reason, if you put aside the partnerships with things like Reddit and Quora. But users trust forums and user-generated content, and they're actively seeking real experiences. So integrating that user-generated content, community engagement, forum-style interactions into your site, into your content, it's going to increase trust. It's going to align content with user desires for authentic and peer-validated insights. And what communities and forums do better than search engines is put empathy over algorithms. I've said before, hyperspecificity here is king, and the more specific terms that you can successfully answer, the better an experience your users are going to have. And this is the crux of what I kind of want to get across today. As I mentioned for the Google Updates timeline I showed earlier, Google's always going to react to SEOs, trying to circumvent what they want it to be used for. So we really need to have that empathy for our users and put ourselves in their shoes. Now, introducing what I think is the opposite of empathy, agentic AI. We've seen it in use already. There's promise of agentic AI being able to do everything an SEO can do and more within seconds. I won't be convinced until it can make me breakfast, but optimizing content for AI agents might involve a bunch of different factors: clean HTML, clear metadata, using APIs, etc., just to help with AI crawler visibility. But to be honest, I'm team human. And therefore, I'm not too worried about doing all of this extra stuff right now instead of making my content answer my users' needs more accurately and effectively. If we're building an internet for AI crawlers, then I feel like we're a part of the problem of making a dead internet. So let's talk about how we can ethically win SEO in 2025. I think winning an SEO now requires empathy more than ever, which you'll have heard in a few of the other talks before, authenticity, and then just genuine value for all of your users. So prioritize user-first strategies, excellent content quality, transparency, and again, empathy to differentiate yourself from others in a really, really saturated digital landscape. And then we'll cover a few of the things just at a very top level, just things that I think are worth doubling down on. This is a big one. First big strategy for me is doubling down on your EEAT, so experience, expertise, authority, trust. We all know what it stands for. But the guidelines highlight content quality, so demonstrate that first-hand experience, real expert knowledge, authority through your backlinks and mentions, and transparency to build enduring trust with your users and with search engines alike. I don't want to go too deep on this because there's loads of talks covering this more deeply, and Amanda's going to jump into some more EAT stuff after me, but implement it practically, right? Showcase your author credentials, include authentic personal experiences, cite credible sources, encourage user reviews, keep your content updated, and transparently disclose any affiliations. So for me, it's quality over quantity always, and don't fake your EEAT. It's not worth it. It's important to actually use real experts, and if you've not got any in-house, go to your third-party experts at the end of the day. Google can tell, and users aren't stupid. They can see it as well. Next winning strategy, build a brand. I can't stress this enough. Brand is your safety net and competitive edge in 2025 because users trust brands that they recognize, and so do search engines, even if that's indirectly via user behavior signals. Think about your own behavior when you're searching, you're seeing a list of results. You're probably more likely to click on a name you know or have probably heard of. A survey found that 59% of Americans are more likely to click search results from brands that they recognize over unfamiliar ones. Another sort of winning strategy, I know we've talked a lot about content, but we can't forget the experience around the content. User experience, UX on your site to me is crucial. You can have the best content in the world, but if your site is a pain to use, people are going to leave and they might not return. A sobering stat says that 88% of online consumers are less likely to return to your site after a bad experience. So nearly 9 out of 10 users are going to write you off if your site annoyed them too much, maybe it was slow, full of pop-ups, clunky, or just looked downright sketchy. But those first impressions are going to form in milliseconds. So having a clean, professional design is going to immediately instill trust, whereas that clunky design might cause a bit of doubt about credibility. And in the excitement of AI and content, let's not forget the technical fundamentals of SEO. You'll have heard this one again before. Think of technical SEO as the infrastructure of your house, if your house is your website. If the foundation is weak, if the wiring is faulty, it doesn't really matter how well you've painted the walls or how pretty the decor is. For users to even experience our great content and have that great user experience, the site must be technically sound. And for search engines as well, which are bots at the end of the day, technical SEO is how we ensure that they can access, crawl, and index our content without having any issues. And our next sort of strategy mindset is to be proactive and not just reactive. So think ahead, don't just react. And SEO is notorious for being reactive. Google update comes out, everyone scrambles to adapt. But what if we try to anticipate those changes based on what people are saying, based on what Google's putting out, based on DOJ leaked documentation, et cetera, before the updates hit? Consider how much things have changed in just the last couple of years with the rise of AI content, generational shifts in search behavior, et cetera. The one constant in SEO is change. And rather than chasing algorithms, why don't we just chase the user's evolving needs, right? And the technological trends that are going to be shaping how that content is consumed by users. This is a bit of a nerdy slide, but data is cool. You should use it. And as SEOs and marketers, we have more data about our users and our performance than ever before. So let's use it to make smarter decisions. When we rely on real user metrics or real user data, we take the guesswork out and align our efforts with the reality. Also, SEO doesn't exist in a vacuum. In 2025, a holistic approach to digital marketing is essential. Social media, email, content marketing, PPC, etc. They're not our enemies. They're not separate to us. They're allies that are going to massively amplify our SEO, and it works the other way around as well. The user's journey is going to cross multiple touch points. Recognizing that and working in an integrated way is massively going to improve your user experience and your results as well. SEO isn't dead, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, SEO isn't dead. But bad SEO definitely is, in my opinion. You might have heard the old cliche about, you'll have heard it all day today. And I think, SEO is very much alive. What's dying is bad SEO, and we should probably let bad SEO die. The kind that only chases algorithms and ignores users. That's the stuff that users hate. And increasingly, search engines are starting to hate that too. We're seeing a natural selection of, tactics working 5 or 10 years ago, or even 2 years ago, now becoming obsolete if they produce thin or manipulative content. So Google's helpful content system, and other algorithms are systematically burying that bad SEO content, and users have gotten really good at recognizing and avoiding it. So those old tactics are now obsolete. So to bring you back to the question, to bring it all down, have SEOs ruined the internet? Nope, just the bad ones. SEO itself to me isn't the villain, it's a tool, and it can be used for good or ill. And as Uncle Ben said, with great power comes great responsibility. And yes, bad SEO practices have contributed to a lot of the junk and frustration online, but the good news to me is the internet's resilient, users are savvy, Google and other platforms have caught onto most of these bad practices. There's a shift in the SEO industry. In rooms like this at Brighton SEO, I hear a lot more about the content quality, ethics, accessibility, and user intent than about any shady shortcuts that you might hear about. So I think we in this room are collectively moving SEO in a much more positive direction. But obviously, if it's not good SEOs, then who or what is? You might even be scared about agentic AI replacing you. But the answer in pure SEO fashion is it literally depends. I think it's a discussion for later if you do want to find me later on. But on that note, I just want to thank you all for your time and attention. They were my top level insights to help you thrive in 2025's sort of search landscape. However, it's a lot to get into 20 minutes. So scan my QR on my Bob thingy. I've just posted a really, really long essay covering all of these topics in much stronger detail. It follows the kind of the flow of this presentation as well. So you don't have to like my post. You don't have to send me your email. You don't have to comment, give the SEO in all caps. It's up there for free for everyone. And yeah, thanks again. Feel free to find me and chat more about this stuff later.